There is a way to get in touch quite practically with evolutionary psychology. There is a way to be connected to your ancestors in a way. This is where you go back and you look at how did people live a long time ago, and you can discover a lot about who you are, what makes you tick, what makes you have the desires and drives and fears that you have. And it's a very powerful experience. And you can do this quite practically. You can get in touch with this by having an immediate personal experience. Now, when we look back at human history or prehistoric humans, we see that there is an incredible amount of survival struggle. Humans wanted to find food, find shelter, find protection from the elements, from other animals, other tribes. There is war between humans. There is war between tribes. And for you to arrive at this place, to arrive in this modern situation that you find yourself with food available, with no war, with shelter, unlike has ever been experienced before, it can really show you a lot about why you feel the way you feel and why you act the way you feel. Now, of course, when you do an ancestry analysis of yourself and you send off your DNA or whatever to some website and you come back with, there's this percentage from here and this percentage from here and, you've got a little bit of this in your DNA. There's something to be said about that, and that's quite revealing, yeah? And you notice, I've learned something about myself. There's something very subtle about, I'm getting in touch with a bigger picture of myself. Now, a lot of the time we do just sit in our own little world. We sit in our day-to-day things, and that's very much why this is so powerful, because we forget how far we've come. The humans of the past struggled, fought, and lived in the way that they did to bring you to this experience that you've had, that you're having, this life that you're having. One thing you can appreciate is just the diversity of activities that you get to do, that you get to live, that your ancestors never got to live. For the vast majority of human evolution, you would have been in the bushes, living in caves, looking for wild berries, and walking around with a flower over your private parts. Yeah, with a leaf over your private parts. Or a leaf over your flower, if we want to put it that way. Yes. But this moment of arriving in this modern world and suddenly being able to do so many recreational things shows the diversity of life that you can have. You can go and jump out of planes and do parachuting. You can play golf. You can do snorkeling. You can try foods from other countries and try different relationships. You can go and see the Grand Canyon. You can climb mountains. You can lay on the beach and suntan. Yes, huge array of different activities that you can do, which your ancestors never would have got to do. A lot of the ancestors that lived as humans would have only been in a very small geographical area. If you would have looked at the natives and actually seen where they would have been, then you would have seen wow, this is a very small area. It's like never leaving your neighborhood. Imagine never leaving that small childhood town that you grew up in and never even knowing that there was more out there. Now, there is a trade-off because the ancestors don't have the neuroses that us modern humans have. There is a tangle of the mind that makes the modern life very hurtful, and there is a dark side to this modern humanity. So it's not all good news, but understanding this of where we've come from is how you appreciate that. Yes? Now, the natives had what they would say, or what we might say, a noosphere beauty. They had the dreaming time understanding and appreciation for this mind that they have and this imagery and these voices and these experiences of mind that are very different to what we have now, yes? Because we're so much in the empiricism of modern science, of the hard sciences, we lose the enchantment of nature, of dreams, of noosphere experiencing, of outer-body experiencing. So really we need to be in touch more with our ancestors for both the reasons of appreciating how much recreation and different experiences we can have, and also how our minds work, how our thoughts work. Now, you can get in touch with this in a very practical sense. So the way you do this, if we run a in-person workshop, how it normally works is either with all men or all women, and you can also do it with men and women. So usually in an in-person workshop, you want to have about 30 to 40 people to do this exercise. And what you do is you stand in a circle. So everyone's in a circle, and it's a full circle if it's big enough. If it's not big enough and there's not enough people, you can do a line of people. But if it's big enough and you've got 30 or 40 people, you do a full circle, and each person puts their hands on the shoulders of the person in front of them. So everyone's got their hands on someone in front of them, and everyone's got hands on their own shoulders. And it's this full circle, yes? And if it's a men's workshop, just to stay with the men's workshop, for example, you would then pick one person, which is the starting point, and you would say, okay, this person, you are the father of the person in front of you. And because you are the father of the person in front of you, you are also the grandfather of the person in front of them. And because, of course, you're the grandfather of the person in front of them, you're the great-grandfather of the person in front of them. Now, with a skilled facilitator, the facilitator will say, okay, what was your relationship with your father? What can we say a little bit about how you feel about having a father? And that would be the son, the person in front, and that person, and then having a son, and then having a grandfather, and then a great-grandfather. And you see quite immediately that you don't go back far. It only takes about 3 or 4 generations until there's not much you can say, What can you say about your great-great-grandfather? What can you say about your great-great-great-great-grandfather? 4 generations, 5 generations. What do you know about the 6th generation? There's very little that you say about these people. When you get back that far, all you really know is what country they came from and basically what job they had. That's all you know about them, pretty much. You might say, they immigrated from Germany, or they immigrated from Ireland, and he was a carpenter. Something like that. That's all you know. Even further back, you don't know. That's when you get into ancestry. That's when you get into the long line. Now, of course, ancestry, we're talking about hundreds and hundreds of generations. That's why we look at evolutionary psychology. That's why we look at these things in a different way. Now, in the workshop, you'll go around the circle and there will be different feelings between each person and different experiences of their son and father, the son and the father, right? So it's the son is in front of you and the father is behind you. Now, if you're doing this with women, it's the mother and the daughter. And if you're doing it in a mixed group, then it's the mother, father, depending on what you are. And that experience, that feeling of, something come up with each and every person gives you an idea, an insight into how things have been, how far back through the generations. Because, of course, when you get halfway round the circle or 2/3 the way around the circle, the people on the other side of the circle are hearing things about the generations that are long forgotten and long lost. Because, of course, when you say something about your generation, you're talking about every generation. When you say something about your fatherhood, you're saying something about every father. Your experience of fatherhood is very much the same as anything that happens in fatherhood for every father. Yes? So having this experience, having this feeling of being connected through all the generations is very powerful. Now, there's a lot to experience in evolutionary psychology, and there's a lot to experience in having an in-person workshop of sensing the experience, sensing the feeling, rather than just listening to the description. This is the difference between psychology as a mental understanding and psychology as a window or a doorway into a deeper experience, a deeper knowing yourself. Psychology is not knowing yourself. Knowledge is not experiencing yourself. To experience yourself, you have to be in person with other human beings. And you have to feel it in your body. You have to feel someone touching their hands on your back. And you have to actually touch someone on the back. Notice how your breathing changes. Notice how hearing the stories allows your feelings to change, allows your mind to open up into new realizations. Having a realization is not the same as someone explaining to you something and giving you information. Okay, that's a little bit about I keep wanting to say developmental psychology. Evolutionary psychology. It's one of the pillars of the things we talk about here. So please do subscribe. Lots more still to come. And I look forward to your questions and answers, comments. Talk to you soon.